There are only few unions, organizations or groups which really help in electoral reforms, gender equality, democracy, human rights, and EU is top of that. So FIRE has brought you at the embassy of EU in Pakistan, in the capital, to interact with its ambassador, His Excellency Francois, to tell you how it's helping in Pakistan, and we need to talk about ongoing projects, EU's ongoing projects in Pakistan, and we will also talk how it made unity in that and led in the world, especially in economy. So we will talk to His Excellency. Thank you so much, Excellency, for sparing your time. Before formally starting this interaction, let me introduce you my colleague Shanze Manaf, who will be co-anchoring this debate.
The first question that I would want to ask you is going to be about the Brexit effect, and I'd want to know what's the status of it.
I mean, currently, you know, we have entered into the negotiation phase with the UK, between the UK and the European Union. So it's a process that will go until 2019. So at this stage, we are still at a very early stage. You know, we had only one meeting so far. So we'll see how it develops.
Is there any possibility UK government can even change it, or can they change it?
I mean, we are now in this negotiation phase. Obviously, the UK is a sovereign state and they can decide what they want. We are in a situation where these negotiations are going on. If there would be suddenly, you know, a change of policy from the UK side, obviously they will have to inform the EU institution and EU member states, and then we'll take it from there.
How shocking was it for European Union, a union that combined all these countries and made world superpower in economy, especially got very high human index rate? How shocking was it for European Union?
I think for all of us, it's clear that it came as a shock. I mean, and we are still very sad, you know, that our British friends have decided to leave the Union. Obviously, the UK is part of the European Union continent, so they will remain, whatever happens, you know, very close ally to the European Union and the EU member states. But it's clear that it's something that nobody is very happy with.
Yeah, Excellency, if you see, following EU, many other regional countries, they started being together in different forums, economy and politically. So would it even give a wrong message to those unions or gatherings or countries?
I mean, what is interesting to see is how actually for the last 1 year, you know, since the UK referendum took place, how actually it has strengthened the European Union. We have seen that instead of having, you know, a union which might dislocate because one of the countries, and an important one, is leaving the bloc, actually it's the opposite which is going on now. We have seen now all the remaining 27 member states coming closer together on new initiatives taken off now, especially on defense, for example. We are talking also about, you know, the Eurozone to be closer now on many issues. So I think there is the opposite effect that some people were predicting. It's actually the Union is getting stronger, actually. I would say maybe to a certain extent, unfortunately, because the UK is leaving us. But I think it has been a waking call for the EU, I think.
Are you, Excellency, optimistic to bring them back? As you said, negotiations are going on.
I mean, I don't think that it is our place, I mean, actually our mandate as EU to bring the UK back into the EU. I mean, it has been a decision taken by a referendum. Majority of the people of the UK voted to exit from the EU. The government has taken that now, you know, for the implementation with the negotiation going on. So it's clearly a decision by the UK government and the UK people.
But it's very shocking to actually hear that this decision by the referendum can be taken back, because people thought that this decision have been taken and now the further proceedings are going to take place. So that's a new learning for us. So do you think it's going to have an effect on the European Union's economy?
I mean, it's a bit too early to say, because again it depends very much of what will be the terms of the Brexit.
What about right now? I mean, since the Brexit has taken, after the referendum, has it affected the European Union?
What we have seen over the last 1 year now in terms of economic growth in Europe, talking only about the 27 member states, actually it's the opposite. Actually, we have seen an increase in terms of economic growth in the EU. Not much. We are not, unfortunately, at the level of Pakistan with 5 or more, 5+ I would say percentage of growth. But I mean, we see that there is at least now a tendency for increasing economic growth in Europe, which is a good news. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we discuss your efforts in Pakistan and EU's delegation's efforts in Pakistan, would you take our viewers to back and tell us how EU, all these countries became, I would say, superpower in economy? What was the secret of that, so that other regions can follow?
I think the secret is probably in stability, political stability in all the different member states of the EU. So based on democracy, rule of law, respect of human rights, and trust which has been built between the different countries, removing borders between the member states in terms of trade, in terms of services, people, goods, capitals as well. And solidarity, I think it's also an important element in how the bloc of the EU has developed, because it's by better distributing wealth into the EU between the poor, the less rich, I would say, parts of the EU, where more investment has been put by EU institutions, that we have seen this part of Europe also developing. So all that, I think, is contributing to the EU member states and people to develop.
How difficult was it to bring those countries together which fought wars with each other? I'm asking it because in some other regions of the world, they're also trying to unite different countries. But how difficult was it to bring even enemies of centuries?
I think probably unfortunately, what has been very helpful is the fact that we had these two world wars in the 20th century. Clearly, after the second one, people were saying that enough was enough. I mean, it was not possible to do it again. And we had at that time a momentum among the political leaders, especially in France, in Germany, even if the two countries had been fighting for centuries. You had at that time political leaders decided that we should find a solution to that. There was clearly also the support of the US at that time. Clearly, they were very, very positive and helpful into bringing the countries together. And it was not easy for political leaders, because you can imagine that the first speech about the European Union was done in 1950, only 5 years after the end of the Second World War. So it was very recent, and people were still, trying to recover from the war. So it took a lot of courage for political leaders to go against, I would say, probably also their public opinions, and to say it should be that. We have to do it. Yeah, we have to do it. There is no other option than to do it, and they made it.
Can other region follow? I'm actually repeating it because same is happening in this region. For example, Pakistan and India has been fighting wars for ages, and other countries, they don't have even good relations with each other in this region, if you're talking. So it could be a good example, EU for other regions to be united?
I think what is important always to keep in mind is that you cannot just, take the EU model and trying to implement it in another part of the world. It might be a kind of source of inspiration for other regions. Probably the second most integrated region in the world now is ASEAN in Southeast Asia. And then even if they are not at the level of the integration of the EU, they are advancing pretty well. And also it has brought stability in the region. If you look at Southeast Asia 20 years ago, you had, the still countries which were have difficulties among each other, between some countries which were more aligned with the Soviet bloc, others which were more aligned with the US-led bloc. So it was difficult. But now they are part of the same.
They are growing
economically. They are doing pretty well, and they are doing well actually. And we see how step by step, they are trying to integrate the region, not taking again the EU as a model, but much more, as I said, as an inspiration. Yeah.
Is fine. So, Excellency, as my colleague mentioned in intro, that EU is on the top if we talk about human rights, if we talk about gender equality and electoral reforms and democracy. So let's bring viewers in Pakistan now. Can you please explain which your projects, ongoing projects on these subjects, and which areas you are focusing more now?
I mean, let's take, for example, electoral reform or support to elections. Pakistan is going to have election next year in 2018. But it's not the first time that we are going to support the Election Commission of Pakistan. We did that in the past. And I think it was a good support that we provided to Pakistan. I mean, we, as EU, we have been and will stay always on the side of the democratic forces in Pakistan. We strongly believe that the future of Pakistan lies with entrenched democracy in your country. So we will be always supporting, people who are working on that. An election commission of Pakistan, obviously, it's a key player into that.
To do electoral reforms, we need parliament. We need constitutional changes, or we need changes in law. But I don't see anyone from the parliament. Debates have been going on for the last many years. But if you see the Committee on Electoral Reforms, they have not recommended their recommendations, and the election year has started.
Actually, the last election observation mission that the EU did for the last election in Pakistan in 2013, we issued a report with around 50 recommendations. And out of these 50 recommendations, we know that the current draft electoral reform bill is taking most of the recommendation on board. So we are very pleased with that, but we are like you now, we are waiting for the government to table.
It needs to be tabled, it needs to be passed by the parliament, and then...
And it has to be done now, because the election is in 1 year time. So if the the Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, wants to implement the reform, they need time to do it.
But before they start working on reforms, they need a law, they need a bill to be passed.
Exactly.
So on ground, I don't see, honestly, because the time is too short now.
It's not too short yet. I mean, the international good practice is 1 year. So we are still just there, but it should be now. I mean, now that the budget has been dealt with by the parliament, so now it should be the priority of the government and the parliament to pass this bill on electoral reform. No doubt, I fully support that.
Yeah, in Pakistan, I think in this modern world, I don't find any other place in the world where women cannot vote in some area. I'm talking about southwestern province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's one region called Dir. So in 2013, you mentioned women could not vote, and then there was by-election in the same constituency. Women could not vote again. So, Excellency, have you done something in this specific area so that women of that area could even give their vote to elect leadership?
I think, it's probably something that you cannot solve only by one program or one action. I mean, it's something which is deeply rooted, and you have to tackle that from different angles. One of them, obviously, is education. I mean, education, but also, I would say, basic education. I mean, if you want in Pakistan to empower women, you have to provide them with quality education. There is no doubt. I mean, on the experiences around the world shows that if you want, gender equality, you have to go for a strong focus on girls' education, on quality education for girls. That is one set of the reply to your question. And then you can be more specific, yes, when it comes to making sure that women can vote. So that is electoral law, to make sure that you have, as you had before, threshold of turnout of women to make sure that the election will be valid.
Unfortunately, many of them are not registered in the voter list. Many of them women are not even registered in the voter list.
11 million women, not only in India, because 11 million, I think it's more than India. You have 11 million of women today which are not registered as voters. So that is the government has to do something in terms of awareness and voter registration awareness, there is no doubt. But I would say also the political parties have their responsibilities there. It's also up to them, to raise awareness among the voters, among the population, that all these 11 million women should be first registered with NADRA, because they need an ID card, and then registered, as voters. So there is a lot of work to do that. And the support that we are going to provide to ECP, part of the support is to help actually ECP also to focus on that, to focus on women's registration as voters.
I really appreciate, I saw you conducted a workshop, election and vote and all, especially women. Yeah, but do you think one needs to work on the ground, for example, interaction with elders who stop women to come on, interaction with religious clerics, local workshops on the ground and in region like Dir? So don't you think it would help more than only helping ECP means Election Commission of Pakistan?
ECP for us it's a channel, to channel our funding, and then they will obviously ECP is working with different organizations to implement this project on awareness on voter registration. But I would like also to give you another example of how we can use other programs to promote, voter registration, and especially women's registration, women's as voters. We have in Sindh a large program which is on community mobilization, and we do that only with women. And we are working with 750,000 women in different districts in Sindh. And I visited the program in last December, and I was really impressed to see how these women, who are usually culturally women who are stay at home or don't get really out of their villages, not more than that. How they have
Not because they don't want to go out, because of some other reason.
I think they have been empowered by the program run by our partners there. And I well remember that I was asking them, did you vote at the last election in 2013? And all of them voted at the last election, all of them. So, I mean, you can have a program which is working with women on different issues, and they are working on community mobilization, they are working on microcredit, on small scale projects. But at the same time, giving the opportunity of women to work on that and to become much more aware about their capacities, then you also empower them to become really citizens.
Does it, Excellency, scare you like it scares me? History could be repeated in some region like Dir, as it repeated twice in 2013 and later by election too. Does it scare you the history could be repeated there? Women are not allowed to vote?
We know that what is the most difficult to change in any society is the state of mind of people. So you are working with that. And obviously in a culture where people are not seen as maybe full citizen, and it's the case maybe in some parts of Pakistan, you have to fight that. And again, that will go with education of women, but also education of boys, by the way. Because if you want to empower women, you have to make sure that men will be working on that as well.
Yes.
I mean, if you make, the majority of men becoming feminist, then you are sure that you are going to empower women.
We saw that there was only one woman who casted her vote last time in that region. So do you think that this time at least we could increase that? Does it show that, that would be possible?
My feeling is that there is a strong now, first of all, a strong awareness among the main stakeholders that we should not repeat what we saw in 2013. So I think there is a strong push from different sides, including some political parties, by the way, to make sure that it won't happen again. And so I'm more optimistic than I would have been 5 years ago. Yes.
There was one woman in the same region who tried to even contest election, who intend to contest upcoming election. So far, she has got life threats, and she had to hide even in different cities. Are you planning or something to save such people?
I mean, you have a constitution, the 1973 constitution in Pakistan, which is very clear about the rights of the people of Pakistan, of the citizens of Pakistan. And the right to vote, the right to contest an election is there for everybody. So I think on that is, for me, the first people, to be there to defend this woman should be the state. There is no, it's a state responsibility. Obviously, what we can do as European Union is, if there is a need for help in any way, we can also work with the government, we can support. But it's clear that for me, the first response should come from the state.
What other problems, issues do you see in Pakistan that need to be addressed, other than education, other than gender discrimination and all? So what other issues are likely there?
I mean, I guess in Pakistan there are a number, as in any country, a number of issues to address. Maybe I can reply by telling you where we are focusing our support here in Pakistan when it comes to our cooperation programs. We are focusing on rural development, so working, as I explained before, for example, with community mobilization in Sindh, in Balochistan, in KP, quite heavily involved with different organizations. We are working on, by the way, trying actually to develop communities, but also develop them in terms of economic empowerment as well, how they can develop their livelihood by, providing means that they can develop economic activities. Then education for us, it's key. It's probably the first priority, by the way, because we feel that if I take the example of Sindh, because we are working there, what we have seen over the last 10 years is that the enrollment rate of children in Sindh has only increased by 1%. So from 50 to 51%. Okay, at the same time, the population has grown, so actually it means that 1.5 million more kids have been enrolled. But I think it's still far from what Pakistan should aim at. So I think education is really a key priority. I know it's a key priority for the government, both at federal level, at provincial level, but it's really something that everybody should focus on. And what is important, I think also, it's not education for the sake of education. It's quality education. And that is really important, quality education, because education can be also the bad or the worst of the things if you don't teaching the right things to kids.
Right education is the key to progress. That's very true. Excellency, since summers are here and the electricity crisis that Pakistan has been facing, we all are witness to that. So what is EU doing in regards to that?
We have providing our modest support into trying helping Pakistan in dealing with this energy crisis, which by the way I think it's day after day we see that there are also improvements in terms of energy supply in the country. We have been mostly focusing in rural areas by providing remote communities with the means to have electricity from renewable energy. So it's all about small hydropower stations. For example, in KP, we have done that a lot in KP. For example, in Swat, we have been very active in Swat, or in all the Malacan division as well. And we have also now, we are also involved in a couple of larger projects. We are involved in Warsak Dam, which is also near Peshawar, where we are helping in rehabilitating the Warsak Dam to get it back to the full power he had before. And now we are engaging with Pakistan on energy dialogue to see how we can bring to Pakistan some expertise from the EU. And especially there are two fields which it seems Pakistan is very interested by the EU, and when I say the EU, it's EU and EU member states expertise, is energy efficiency, which is very important because, it's good to have supply, but if you are wasting your energy, it's not very good. So it's all about isolation. When you take a house like that, it's probably not a good example, because as soon as the AC is off, this house will become, like a oven, in 5 minutes, meaning that the isolation is very bad. So energy efficiency is important, and we are very good into that in the EU. And then renewable energy, where we are also leading on, some of our countries are leading on that. Just to give you an example, one of our member states, Denmark, almost 50% of their energy is coming from renewable. 50%, 50. So we have a lot of expertise into that, and we'll be very happy to share that with Pakistan.
Excellency, we are running short of time, but we have lots of things to discuss. So I was reading that you worked on malnutrition to reduce malnutrition in Pakistan. 50% almost children of the age less than 5 years, they die because of this malnutrition, and huge number of women, they die because of that. So Pakistan has been facing this huge issue. Do you see any improvement after your work or your in this specific malnutrition?
Yeah, we do. We are working closely with the government of Sindh on the issue of malnutrition, issue of stunting, and over the last year we have seen quite positive improvements. There is no doubt. Still a lot of work to do. And again, it's a little bit what we discussed over the issue of women on election. Issue of malnutrition is not, you don't have one simple reply. You have to have a holistic approach there. We know that it's linked to education of the mothers. It's linked to issue of sanitation, hygiene. So you have a lot of things you have to tackle together to make sure that to get
nutrition, food, and all these. Yeah. So last question, Excellency. EU has given Pakistan GSP plus status. So can you please tell us, viewers, how much improvement we got in export, especially Pakistan's overall export have been reducing in the previous few years, but because of this special status, do you see any increase in this export?
What we have seen is it's a big increase in terms of export to the EU. So if we compare 2013, 13, we started, GSP Plus the 1st January 2014. 14. So if we compare what was exported to the EU in 2013 with what has been exported to the EU in 2016, so in 3 years of GSP Plus, we have seen an increase by 38%.
38%.
So it's a big. But the problem is it's a diversion of other markets to the EU, because obviously exporters of Pakistan now have a comparative advantage when they go to the EU. unfortunately, the global trade of Pakistan is still dropping. So there is an issue there. Is how Pakistan can, regain an export which will grow. That is an issue that the government has to tackle on private sector as well. There is clearly something wrong there. There is maybe a lack of competitiveness on some of what we are exporting. Probably lack of diversification as well. But there is a need to work on this issue of global export. Going well with the EU, but not very well globally.
Right. Thank you so much, Excellency, for your time. And viewers, you can see that may it be education or women empowerment or its electricity or even GDP, European Union is an example for many of the regions in the world. So thank you for watching, and please take this example along. Thank you so much.